Good evening. I trust you're doing well. My name is Elizabeth Nasaka. I am from Nairobi, Kenya. I just want to give a little brief. We started in the morning, and I know some energies are a little bit low. I just want to introduce something to brainstorm a little bit. When I left home, my 9-year-old son asked me, "Mommy, where are you going?" I said, I'm going to Ghana. And he asked me, where is Ghana, or what is Ghana? That throbbed my mind to ask myself, do you know we are standing in Ghana's ground right now? We have different players from different parts of Africa. And I just want to ask you, and that throbbed me into checking. Okay. Did you know that Ghana is consistently, and I mean consistently, ranked in the top 3 countries in Africa for the freedom of speech and press freedom? Did you know that? Would you guess the next 2 countries that are falling into that? Ghana is top 3 in freedom of speech. Would you guess the next 2 countries? I had Kenya. I don't know about that. Any other? Is it? Nigeria? Ghana should be leading, so I believe the others should be just within vicinity. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I want us to talk about investment in Africa and invite the panelists for today. We have Prince Kofi Amobing, who is the president of UT Group and former managing director of UT Bank Limited. Kindly welcome, sir. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. We have Dr. Victor Abe, who is a corporate leader, strategic leadership and change management consultant. He's a mentor, an author with deep knowledge, understanding, and experience in diverse corporate operational environments and perspective for Africa. Welcome, Dr. Abe. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking your time. Thank you. Thank you, the audience, for patience. I believe we are coming close to the end of this discussion, and I want to believe it's going to be effective for everybody watching across Africa. East Africa is watching, Kenya particularly is watching, and they send their greetings. So today we are talking about designing credible investment and borrowing strategies to increase investment in Africa. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the panel session of topic, Closing the Gap. Designing credible investment and borrowing strategies to increase investment in Africa. Today we'll be discussing one of the most pressing challenges facing the African continent, the significant gap between Africa's needs and actual investment levels. Did you know that Africa is home to approximately 30% of the world's mineral reserves, including 40% of gold, 60% of cobalt, and 90% of platinum group metals. Africa also has about 60% of the world uncultivated arable land. Despite this, we have one of the lowest levels of intra-regional trade in the world, and intra-African trade accounting for only 15% of the continent's total trade. This is according to the UN Africa report. It also says Africa's share of global foreign direct investment was only 3.4% in 2020, down from 5.7% in 2015. This gap itself creates a range of untapped opportunities, both for the continent and for the global investors. And this one brings us to the discussion that we are having today. And just to mention a few, we have International Energy Agency, abbreviated IEA. It has mentioned that Africa itself estimated to have 10 terawatts of solar potential and 350 gigawatts of wind potential. The project will create more than 4.5 million jobs across the continent by 2030. However, Leveraging this potential requires overcoming a range of challenges, including limited access to capital, as well as lack of transparency and accountability in policy and legal certainty to ensure social and environmental safeguards are guaranteed. Further to this, the basic principle of transparency and sustainability, which is part of our discussion today, or social and environmental impact, are not systematically applied. According to the report by World Bank, only half of African countries require environmental impact assessment for mining projects, and even when assessments are conducted, they are often inadequate and do not adequately consider the potential social and environmental impacts of the project. This is not all that bad for Africa. Fortunately, there's a growing recognition among policymakers of the need to design credible investment and borrowing strategies to increase the flow of investment into Africa. And as I invite my panelists to this, I want to mention a little bit about East Africa on the aspect of FDIs. According to UN report, some African countries have been able to successfully attract the FDI by improving their investment climate. For example, you have Ethiopia on the other end. It has seen a significant increase in FDI inflow recent years, partly due to the government involvement and efforts to improve the business environment. We also have Rwanda. Rwanda has also been ranked the second easiest place to do business in Africa and 38th globally, in 2020. This one brings us to our attention. On the course of this session, we're going to hear from our panelists, Dr. Abbey and Captain Kofi. I hope they are going to engage you guys. They are professional in that field, and you're going to have a very able discussion on the same. This brings me to our first discussion. Goes to you, Dr. Abbey. Does Africa really need FDI at all in the face of abundant wealth on the continent? You can expound on that.
All right. Thank you, Nasaka. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I think those, as the saying goes, those who love last loves best. It's been a long journey from morning up to now. Those who are still around, it's amazing. It means that all the ideas that have been shared so far has been inspiring and has been interesting. I strongly believe it has triggered a lot of self-introspection within the continent or in our hearts. And happy to be here. Before I go on to answering the question, I must say it's also interesting to share the platform with my father, who also coincidentally happened to be a military commissioned officer, a veteran, and I am also a veteran military officer. I also left the military at the rank of captain. So it's interesting, two captains on the same platform. It's quite interesting. The current Director General of WTO, Dr. Nguyen, once said in 2011 that Africa is the new frontier for investment. There are serious investors waiting with serious investment ideas to push onto the continent. But as said by previous panelists, we focus so much on foreign direct investment and forgetting that we have so much wealth here that can equally be, harnessed for our development. If you ask me whether we really need direct foreign investment, I would say yes, we cannot do away with it totally. But we need to focus internally. If all the statistics, all the figures that have been churned out so far is anything to go by, our natural resources and the human resources that we have is enough to turn the fortunes of this continent around. But unfortunately, the mindset, as the previous panel indicated, is what we are not getting right. If we have the mindset right, I believe internally we will be able to support our own investment drive. But we are calibrated, if you like, we are calibrated to look always outside the continent for investment. We have very wealthy individuals, besides our natural resources, wealthy individuals in our various African countries who can really support growth or investment. But again, it's the mindset. Those who are ready to pump in investment are not comfortable with the mindset of those they are engaging. So again, that is what I mean by mindset. So the fear of failure or the phobia that those who are going to use those investments to change the narrative are not having the right mindsets. Their mindset is that of get rich quick. So they are not ready to go through the mill. So yes, we need the foreign direct investment, but we would have been better off focusing more internally if we are able to recalibrate our minds towards our domestic sources of investment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And just to mention, thank you. Give him a clap. On the FDI inflows, just some statistics here. Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa are the top countries in Africa that received high FDI inflows. In 2020, Egypt was the largest recipient of FDI in Africa with inflows of 5.9 billion. We are talking about Africa. Sometimes Egypt sounds like it's just a country on its own. It's not in Africa. But looking at all the development that is going across there, you can see what is happening. It's a land. We can pride ourselves in this part of Africa, the West, the East, on the soil and the agriculture aspect that we have. Egypt, a land that we want to term it with its kind of soil that it has. And it's able to feed Africa and whatever it's doing right now. This is all because of FDI. This was 5.9 billion in 2020. South Africa and Congo were the second and third largest recipient with inflows of 4.6 billion US dollars and 4.3 respectively. The services sectors were the largest recipient of FDI in Africa, followed by manufacturing and primary sector. Mr. Kofi, you really have vast experience, over 50 years experience. I applaud you for that. And I want to ask you this question. How can African governments create value addition in promoting investment opportunities towards sustainable growth? Yes. How can African countries, governments, create value addition in promoting investment opportunities towards sustainable growth?
Well, thank you very much, and a very good evening to everyone who is here. I like the MC and the introduction, but I must also pay compliments to my fellow captain. I was supposed to be here in the morning, but I was in court, so I couldn't make it. And I told the organizers that please push my time because court closes at 3 o'clock. So if I missed anything in the morning, sorry about that, but if you don't go to court, they issue bench warrant, you are in trouble. To your question, I think Dr. Abbey did a lot of justice about it by talking about the mindset. But you're asking what governments can do in the case of value addition and all those things. I want to step back a bit and still talk about the mindset, because the question that comes up when it comes to African issues and why we're not developed is that we don't have the mindset and we are lazy, we don't like development, we want to get rich quick and all those, which is the mindset. The question we're not addressing It's why, that mindset. So I'll come back to your issue, but let me just put something in your mind so you can think about it, reflect upon it in your own time about why we are the way we are as Africans. And I've thought about this for a long time. I've dealt with a lot of people. Like UT at its peak was employing directly about 2,500 people. So what I'm taking, don't just dismiss it, just reflect upon it, because I believe that's the solution. Unless we know the kind of people we are, and therefore the kind of leadership we attract and we put in place, we will never resolve this issue about mindset. So listen to this. When you have children, and one is a love child, and you don't discipline them, and you give them everything they want, you dote on them, and you don't even stop them from doing evil, that child is destined to failure. Again, you can see in this world that people who have maybe lost their upper limbs can do wonderful things with their two lower limbs. And some can even drive with it, not to talk about making up and all sort of things. And it's because in this world, to go straight to the point, the environment shapes everything, and the environment and all living things adapt to the environment. Now, I find that the problem with the mindset of Africa is because God, in all his wisdom, and he doesn't think like us, he thinks a million years, and so put Africa in the best part of the earth. The best part. Sub-Saharan Africa, that's where the black man was put. And he doted on us. He gave us the vegetation, green, climate, fantastic, no differences in temperature, and everything in abundance. And I call it the abundant theory. So you get up in the morning, what you eat is just around your place. You eat, at most you go maybe some 500 yards away. And no natural hazards, virtually. No tsunami, no earthquake, no hurricane, nothing. The worst is probably a rainstorm. Under these conditions, we also adapted to our environment. And that environment is an environment of abundance. So you can name all the vices associated with Africans. We don't keep time. We don't respect each other. We are jealous of each other. We don't know maintenance. The list can be a very tall list, but it can all be explained by the issue of abundance. I will give you one example. We know Africans don't keep time, right? The issue is, our problem was not about keeping time, because we didn't need time for anything. We didn't have to plan, we didn't have to budget, we didn't have to stock up food, we had to do a whole lot of things. So what we did, when we woke up in the morning and we were full, and we've had food from just around our area, our problem, how do we waste time so that night comes and we go to bed? So what did we do about it? We developed time-wasting traditions and cultures to the point where, check our engagements, our outdooring, our funerals, check even our greetings. For some African tribes, the greeting can take 10, 15 minutes. Because we had to waste time not to save time. And because we are all self-dependent, you didn't need the other family or the other person, so we did not respect each other. And we even got jealous because if I have it and you have it, why are you trying to be something else? So we'll pull you down. Now, this is just for you to think about. That is the typical African. The unfortunate thing is, if that is who we are, we find it difficult choosing as a leader someone who is different. So we choose a leader who is like us. And that person will certainly not bring development to us because he's laid back. I have seen presidents go to funerals and stay there for 3 hours, and they even have to dance a little bit because that is what the people want. If you don't do that, they will not vote for you. And this is what is killing Africa. Now, we have a proverb in Akan which says, translated loosely, it says, the bird that is near its mother gets the best part of the meal. The equivalent in the Western world is early bird catches the worm. Now, the equivalent early bird catches the worm means working hard, getting there early so you can get the benefits. Now, our being close to the powers that be to get whatever you require means that Africans will always gravitate towards power and authority and worship it and thereby get what they want. Now, when it comes to developing Africa, because of especially the democracy that we've had, where it's one man, one vote, the leaders know the mentality of the African and they go that way. And then when they get into power, what they do is that they have to appoint people who will bring them votes, people who will spend money for them and their own people. So when it comes to developing the country, it is really secondary. It's a matter of staying in power. So you want to relate it to foreign direct investment or whatever, that is not their priority. So they take loans and they make their commissions and they don't care about the deployment of the loans. They make their, they get corrupt and make their whatever percentages on these monies. And they don't care about people because Africans naturally do not care about other people because they don't need them in their lives. And don't forget, when you're talking about the abundance theory, we lived like that for hundreds of thousands of years. So it's become our DNA. And we cannot change today or tomorrow. Now, it is really a hopeless situation, and I'm not running away from your issue, but I think people should understand the perceptives of the problem, the underlying effects of the problem before they start finding solutions. Because all I hear from prominent people, professors, and name it, Africa has gold, Africa has 30%, Africa has 50% of this, Africa has arable land, Africa has that. But Africa is not able to develop. We are not able to develop, not because we have those things, but because we have those things that we are not able to develop. Because we've been spoiled by the system, by the environment. Now, for us to develop, it is not difficult, but it will always elude us. It is not difficult because what it takes is going for meritocracy, people who know what is right, people who are chosen because they are the best, and you appoint them into positions where they are supposed to lead, and they demand from the people they lead, and when you put them there as leaders, you must set standards and targets for them and make them responsible and accountable. Anything short of that, I don't care how much money we get into Africa, it will always go to waste. It took Obama to come and tell us about institutions and systems being the way to develop Africa and not individuals who are in power. We should know this ourselves. But the leader who will go for this will not last. Because, not that will not last, we won't even vote for you. Imagine you want to be president and you go for a funeral for 30 minutes or 20 minutes and then wave them and go away, and you don't let people follow you all over the place because you think they all are busy people, they should go and work. They will not vote for you. This is Africa. So we are in a great mess, but all it takes is leadership that will say that, listen, cut out all this crap. I want the best people to run the institutions, and I'm going to be disciplined to a fault. It doesn't matter whether it's a chief, it's my uncle, it's my pastor, it's what. This is the law, and the law will be applied. But we can't have that leadership. We cannot, because that is not us. So In developing, I think if we want to, we should look at the core. Otherwise, all the money that will come in and to ensure Ghana develops, it will be the same story. I'm not a kid. I'm 71 years old, and I've seen it all. And I'm saying, let's hover over the surface. Let's spend our time in Africa to delve into the underlying problem. And that is what I've shared with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are getting insights from, getting such insights are invaluable. We appreciate that. I could learn and borrow from that. Onto that, Dr. Abbey, you are a king in strategy. We talk about the process, the development, but we know where the cut lies. When it comes to implementation and execution, we have so many tabled proposals in these execution and implementation offices. What do you think? What should be the true drivers when it comes to sustainable investment and borrowing strategy in Africa? What do you think, sir?
All right, thank you. Everything rises and falls on leadership. That's the summary of what my co-panelist, my father, said. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So for Africa, for all what we have been saying since morning up to now, for us to make any progress, any meaningful progress with regards to our use of our resources or even any investment drive or strategy, it must be hinged on two basic things for me. That strategy must tend to speak to inclusiveness, or if you like, inclusivity or inclusiveness, if I may put it that way. And then green growth. Because inclusiveness here means that economically, politically, and spatially, as in geographically we are included in the discourse or in the development discourse. It shouldn't be an investment drive that focuses on just portions or certain areas within the continent or even within our countries, where we just spell out some areas where we feel those are the areas that need development, and that's it. Examples abound in various African countries. If you take the mining communities in Africa, we have mined over so many years, yet if you go to those communities, they have the least development that you can see around. In Ghana, for example, Obuasi and those enclaves, you see how dilapidated those communities are. Are they not part of the country? Meanwhile, we go out there, seek investments into those mining communities, and yet the proceeds are not beneficial unto them. So they need to be included in the space. As for governance, as in economic political system, your investment strategy should be able to empower everybody to participate in the political discourse. It should not be an investment that benefits only a few. That's a ruling class or a class system where only few people are empowered because, as my co-panelist said, they take their percentages and they don't care about what happens to the rest of the people. So any investment drive should seek to empower the citizenry across board. If you talk about the going green, in the morning discussions and the afternoon thereof, we spoke about green energy across the continent or across the globe now. Everybody is talking about green energy, green energy. Our investment drives should be equally hinged on promoting sustainable development through green energy. We have across Africa, enormous water bodies that can generate enough electricity for the entire continent. But what are we using it for? We are rather polluting those waters through other investment drives like the mining sector and all that. How do we ensure that we synchronize our investment efforts in such a way that they promote green energy. The sun is available. The Sahel region of Africa alone, the sun there, I believe if we are able to seek investment to tailor towards those sectors, Africa should be able to provide enough solar energy for itself. Somebody spoke about industrialization. The professor from Kenya spoke about industrialization driving our developmental efforts. But we need energy, and those energies must be, sustainable, and green energy is one. So any investment drive must seek to focus on those two things, inclusiveness and green growth. But let me be quick to also mention that by so doing, we must understand that these things can only succeed if we focus on 5 key areas. Panelists have mentioned it, but I just feel I have to reiterate it. That has to do with governance and accountability. Those investments that we go out there seeking, both external, foreign direct, or be it local, how accountable are we with regards to the funds that come in? The governance structure, how is it? Is it just for the benefit of the few and the rest? Nobody is answerable to anything. And also, we should also be talking about the issue of the youthful skills or skills development, where we're going to build capacity. The investment must build capacity. You see, when we talk about foreign direct investment, personally, I don't look at it only purely from financial perspective. It can be technical assistance as well. Building capacity of your local people to be able to position themselves well to sustain that development or to continue with the development you are talking about. Infrastructure is another one. Then we talk about private sector development. The investment drive must focus on empowering the private sector. I've always heard this statement that private sector is the engine of growth. But again, another debate which usually arises has to do with the fact that what is the capacity of the people within the private sector as well, or if you like, the mindset. And regional integration. The professor said in the morning or in the afternoon that Ghana produces cocoa, Kenya produces coffee. Those are for, the two commodities are, if you like, the same. They serve the same purpose. So either in the morning I take cocoa or I take coffee. So regional integration by way of trading. And am I going to send my cocoa to Kenya and take the coffee, or I'm going to sell some kind of equipment to Kenya so that they can use it to process their coffee or what have you. Those are the things that we should be talking about. So indeed, inclusiveness, green growth, grounded on good governance and accountability, skills development, regional integration, private sector development, or capital availability to private sector are key to ensuring that they should be the true reflection of our drive to investment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Those are very rich points you've given. I could use them in my PhD. Thank you so much. Captain Kofi, we cannot move ahead without addressing the issue of debt that we have in Africa. It's the part that is also affecting our spillover effect on what you're supposed to see. Just to address this on a quick note, based on your extensive knowledge, experience in entrepreneurship, business, and different industries, how have African government addressed the issue of debt sustainability in recent years, and what lessons can be learned from these efforts?
The issue about access to sustainability is something that Africa has had to grapple with, and we failed all the time. It comes from various aspects of it. Let's take, for example, the value of our our city currency. Most people don't even appreciate how much we failed in holding the value of that currency. In 1983, the value of the cedi to the dollar was 2 cedi 75 pesos to a dollar. Today, it's about 120,000 cedis to a dollar. Now, in such a situation, I mean, I'm talking about the currency because that alone, and the debts come in dollars, and we make our production, everything in cedis. So at this rate, you can see that you can't catch up with it. And I'm talking about a period of about 40 years, and you've gone from 2.75 to a dollar to 120,000 cedis, that's old cedis, to a dollar. That's one aspect of it. Now, corruption is the next thing. When we go for the debts are not deployed, and as my co-panelist said, Dr. Abe said, the governance and the accounting for it and holding people responsible for it is not there. Because the people who are supposed to do this, right from the top and head of the institutions, do not really care and do not even want to hold them accountable. Because the leaders who should be held accountable in these positions are party people, people who have helped here and there. Even when they are knowledgeable and they have the merit to be there, because of the way of the appointment, they will only appoint you if they can manipulate you. So again, the debts cannot yield the desired results for us to be able to service it. Then we have what we talked about the general mindset of the people. The workers don't feel that it is their responsibility to deliver for them to pay for it. The deployment of the funds comes haphazardly. Some doesn't get deployed. There are situations where even the debts, when we've gone for them, are not deployed. They are not used up. And we have all sort of infrastructure and structures left halfway because a different political system comes and they don't want to touch the development project that have started. And these projects are supposed to actually raise our economic levels to be able to finance these debts. So if the debts are deployed over some infrastructure or some housing project, but then there's a change of government, you find that the new government doesn't want to even touch it because it will bring credit to the party that started it. So we have numerous problems, which is all due to our mentality as Africans and the way we think. So because of the corruption, because we don't like ourselves and we don't follow up on things, lack of governance and accounting, putting the wrong people in the right place, and the list goes on and on and on. So that our debts from, as far as I remember, when Kwame Nkrumah inherited, got independence for us, we had a surplus. The figure that I know of is about 400 million pounds reserves. That 400 million pounds reserves, in today's terms, it's billions and billions and billions of pounds. And he used the monies for rapid development, the schools, name it, Kosombo, motorway, factories and industries, and exhausted those monies. Since then, every government has added onto the debt of this country. And in the last 4 or 5 years, we more than doubled the debt that we had already accumulated. So our situation is going from bad to worse. And it's the part of our inability to sustain the debt is also because of the democracy that we have. Democracy of one man, one vote, we have to do something about it in Africa. Because, listen, a continent that has high illiterate percentage, so you find that the people who understand what makes the countries work, their votes will always be cancelled by the majority of the people. And therefore, I think governments should sit up and look at the kind of democracy that will work for Africa. And again, in my fantasy reflections, I have some ideas, but I can't share them here. They probably won't let me go out. They think it's too radical. But unless we address our democracy, and I'm not talking about a coup, because there are so many coups and they didn't do us anything, but address our democracy, because even in America, they have a system which doesn't just allow one man, one vote. So why have we taken this democracy hook, line, sinker, and practicing it with monitoring from outsiders to make sure that we do the right thing? It's not suitable for us. And we have to find a different way. So these are some of the things that has made our debt situation worse over the years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Just to add a tip on the debt, just to let you know how bad we are. Since we are standing in the ground of Ghana today, Ghana and Republic of Congo have high debt to GDP ratios, standing to 83.5% and 85.4% respectively. But it's not all that bad. If we are ranking, the top 3 countries with the highest debt to GDP ratio in sub-Saharan Africa are Cabo Verde with 159%, Eritrea 152%, and Mozambique 102%. These are not numbers that we should glorify in. I believe, hearing from all our panelists today, there's the aspect of inclusivity, implementation, all these words that we're hearing, they're not new, but we know what Africa is. If I stand here today and I don't mention my name or where I come from, we are all Africans. We are looking for solutions. And I believe today was all about looking for solutions. I really, really appreciate everybody who took the opportunity to speak today and had a moment to express. We couldn't just go away with, this boiled information that we have, and we are looking for a platform to lay them out in different industries, different capacities. I talk about Africa, and I always say, Africa, arise. Somebody started somewhere, and we are here. It's going to take some time, yes, but we're going to get there someday. With the people that we have and the intelligence that we have. We can pride ourselves as Africans with the intelligence. We trade with our intelligence. It's only that the capacity to be utilized is not fully utilized, but we are getting there. In respect of time, I believe this is where we are going to end our session today. Thank you so much, my valuable panelists. Yes?
Yeah, if you permit me, I think we have identified the problem of mindset. I just want to quickly profile some, or call it solution or suggestion, so that we understand that through that means we can address the issue of mindset. It has to do with our educational system. The educational system, I don't call it educational system. I call it a schooling system. It's a schooling system where you are taken through some kind of mechanical approach to doing things. You are taught 1 + 1 = this, and then the teacher comes up with an examination with the same question, and you are asked to produce answers. We are not, taught to apply and make sense out of whatever we are being taught. So it's a challenge. There's the difference between the schooling and education is that at the end of your schooling session, you are given a certificate, a proof that you have gone through that system. By education, you go through education when you are able to apply the knowledge acquired that will benefit society. Our tertiary institutions today across Africa is, I think Professor will bear me out, is more theoretical based than practical based. We are dealing with abstract things that are very remote from our children, and so we are not, we don't understand what those things mean. So when we come to real life or the corporate or working world, we don't seem to know what to do because we are not taught to apply our brains to anything. So the young people today who are into that educational space, as in they have become self-aware and know that they need to apply knowledge and common sense to doing things by being innovative, creative. African countries and governments need to support such people to innovate. You cannot progress if you cannot innovate to suit your circumstances. Your needs are unique to you based on the environment you find yourself. So our educational system should be tailored in a way that will promote innovation. We are talking about STEM, science, technology, technical, and all those education. We need to tailor a system that promotes innovation, creativity among the youth or the teeming youth that we have. On the continent of Africa, the population of the youth alone is over, I think it's over 800,000. And that's a youthful population. What are we doing to begin with them to change the narrative? That is where I think that we can begin from. And the leaders must understand that the safety and the comfort or the well-being of the country should come first before any other thing. I believe my senior will bear me out. We have been taught as young cadets and officers that your own ease and comfort comes always the last. The people you lead, their needs come second, but the first need or the first thing you have to fulfill as a leader is the needs of your country. That is why you see a certain group of people so committed to defend the country at all costs, at the peril of their own lives. If all of us have this kind of mindset that my country comes first, I think we will go a long way to help us. Those who are holding American passport, for example, you see in the American passport, they have all manner of things that speak to the mind of the citizenry. There are quotes that makes you feel proud that you are a citizen of America. I don't have American passport anyway. But seeing people holding, it gives them a certain pride because the statement in there tells you you are super. You have whatever it takes to be on top of the world. It's about affecting the mindset. So when we do those things, I think it will help us. Thank you very much. I'm humbled for the last opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. Give them a round of applause. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And this is where we end our conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your audience. And we believe to put into perspective and practicality what we've spoken today. I appreciate.